dog is any dog that we see on the streets. But it could be more specific than that, because it's a little blurry. Because a lot of the dogs that we see on the streets have homes and have pseudo homes, multiple homes, and are cared for, and oftentimes by the community, or not cared for and become seen as a nuisance. And so stray dogs would encompass all of those dogs, even in communities where the dog might even be well cared for, but the dog has the opportunity to leave the yard and come back. For the time that that dog is outside of the yard, what is the difference between that and a dog that doesn't have a home to a child walking on the street that's afraid of the dog? And so, from that standpoint, it gets a little bit blurry. And I think that lends to the problem, or to how do we find solutions to solve the problem, because oftentimes it's hard to identify, because again, we have so much people doing so much good for their dogs, and then the birth rate is become out of control, and special thanks to Bark and all of the institutions, private and government, that are doing their best to spay and neuter dogs to lower the breeding population. However, that's not going to be enough. We have to have education, and we have to change our attitudes and behaviors towards closing in our yards. But I wanna paint a picture. Picture that came to me a few years back. The garbage truck. I think we had a situation in the country where the garbage collection wasn't coming to, I think, duplexes, and so for a while, for like 2 weeks or so, might have been a little more, we just didn't have any garbage collection. And I imagine that if someone drove past, looking through the corner, they would say, "Man, these people are nasty." And in reality, it was more of an institutional or systematic reason as to why the garbage was overflowing, and why making us look bad, per se, you could say. And so I draw that analogy to look at the stray dog situation. And right now we have an excess of stray dogs on the street, and it's really hard to identify whose dog is who at this point. And so now we have more of a systemic issue that's going to require, I think, first cleanup, and a way to rehome dogs and find perhaps sanctuaries, and repurpose dogs for other purposes, like perhaps therapy dogs, or and persons out there doing a great work rehoming dogs, fostering dogs, and finding homes for the Royal Bahamian Potcake around the world. So I congratulate and I applaud everyone. But what I'm speaking about is a community-wide understanding of how to approach the problem from a statistical standpoint, meaning, okay, what does it cost to manage the stray dog population on the street, and get the population levels lowered, even if we didn't do spay and neuter, for example. And so, those are the conversations I think we could have more of, and we could figure this problem out,
I think you've shared a lot of food for thought. Now, you had also said that we need to bring about greater awareness. Given our population's unique makeup and how we receive information, how would you actually approach that? Making people more aware of the issue and how they can improve it.
Well, that's a great question, and I think the way that we approached the health issue with the Ministry of Health and Wellness was revolutionary. Many countries probably have done that taken the same approach, but for us it was revolutionary, and I applauded, and within myself I applauded the government for taking an approach to the health and wellness of the Bahamian people on a ministry governmental level. And so I think any issue such as this that really it touches on agriculture, because dogs fall under the portfolio, and so it touches on food sustainability and health. There's the risk of disease and cross contamination. So many areas are affected, but we may just not be aware of it. So it might call for larger, programs, public and private, to tackle the issue, and that would now cause the information to get fed into the schools, and into the curriculums, and into the forums and the town hall meetings, and I think that's that's one way. And then that would lead to getting a financial understanding of what it's going to take to solve the problem. And then money can go to the agencies that are on the ground that are dealing with it. On the ground level, tackling, when people get attacked from dogs and they have to go into the community and and, and capture dogs, etc. That's where the money needs to be going. At the end of the day, so we have to figure out how do we get it there and increase the awareness so that we as a community ask for that to happen.
Money makes the world go around, and that's one of the that saying, put your money where your mouth is. What could we do to help? And policy and practice, legislation, all of these things would be helpful. Getting the information into our classroom and imparting the information to all of our members of society in ways that they can appreciate it would be, I think, a very fine start, or that those efforts that are already happening. Let's improve on those. But before we move on, I just wanted to talk a bit more. Could you give us perhaps Professor Hogg, an example of what good have you seen done for our dogs in society? Because I know Mr. Stubbs has lots to say about this, but I want to bring you back in to help us beyond Frappe, because I think Frappe needs to be a celebrity at this point. What have you seen? What other examples of maybe other dog owners really